Hi everyone, Eddie here, Think Education's marketing lecturer. As mentioned to you over the announcement, I'm going to discuss about the assessment 2. Okay, so the session is recorded so you can review and play back the session at any time. So again, the purpose of this session is to discuss the assessment phase 2. And again, this is my email address. And if you need to contact me, you can post your questions in the discussion forum, or you can email me. And I understand that some students have been sending me emails to discuss with them, which is fine. And if you need to get help from academic and non-academic perspective, you can contact the online services team, and that's the phone number. All right, so just a bit of reminder, this is our subject summary. And we try to discuss about the everything about marketing and also the business management. Okay, so with this subject, we are going to learn some key concepts of marketing, the role of marketing in business and society, and we will also cover a number of things which is important from a consumer perspective, and some key concepts that we will be learning include the planning, marketing mix, the segmentation, positioning, which are basically core marketing strategy, or I think it is also safe to say they are the core strategy of a business. So I would suggest that you learn the positioning process, which is normally engineered in the from the marketing function perspective, and that helps us to understand how we can appreciate our role in the organization. Of course, the positioning, since it is the core strategy of business, the other functions also contribute to it. Okay. All right. So your assessment 2 is due on Tuesday, 6 December 2016. So it's not going to be on Sunday. Week 12. It is in week 12 basically, but again, we normally have our assessment due on Sunday, but not for this one. For this assessment, it is due on the 6th of December 2016 or Tuesday 2016. Okay, now make sure you address all tasks, okay, and explain the relevant concepts, at least briefly. And in terms of explaining the relevant concepts, definition is always recommended. And use the definition that you have outlined for the relevant concepts. Okay, so for instance, the targeting strategy is what? You explain that concept, and then you use that concept. Okay. And substantiate your comments with facts, evidence, reference. For instance, the company's targeting strategy is what, and this is shown by, and you detail, you outline the facts to support your argument. Okay. Okay. The other thing is that before we move on to our discussion of assessment phase 2, the other thing is that you also need to understand that this assessment is a continuation of your assessment 1. And assessment 1 essentially includes introduction and situation analysis. Okay, assessment 2. Now we'll talk about the assessment 2. Okay, the assessment 2 includes the introduction, segmentation, targeting, positioning, marketing mix variables, conclusion, and of course we also need to consider the presentation aspect and also referencing. Okay, now let's have a look at the first one, segmenting and targeting. Oh, before we move on to segmenting and targeting, just in terms of introduction, please guys make sure that you establish a clear introduction about the business, products and services of the company that you're analyzing. I noticed that a lot of people normally outline this is the company and the company was founded, yada yada, done. Look, please outline a brief more details about the products and services that they're offering. Okay, so you introduce the company. This is the company that I'm analyzing, and you explain briefly about the product and services that they're offering. If you can also include the customers, the major customers, or the major customers that they're aiming at, that's fantastic. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the segmenting and targeting. Okay, look, segmentation is actually the process of dividing a large population into smaller market segments. Okay, now if you look at segmentation approach in real life, when you do thorough consumer study, you may come up with 6 to 8 market segments. Okay, now within that 6 or 8 market segments, okay, if you compare one segment to the other segment, we will expect differences. Okay, so let's say we have segment A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay. If you compare segment A and segment B, they should not share similarities. They should be different. Otherwise, there is no reason we call them segments. We call them different market segments. Okay, and if we zoom into each segment, like segment A, segment B, and so on and so forth, we should expect similar characteristics. Okay, we should expect similar characteristics. All right, so that's what we mean by segmentation. Now, why do we do segmentation? The reason for that is because businesses understand that consumers have differences. Consumer needs, for instance, are not the same. Okay, we may buy the same car brand, but the model or the color may be different, reflecting our need. Okay, so that's the reason why businesses conduct segmentation instead of offering one thing to everybody. Okay, all right. There are several approaches in terms of segmenting a consumer market. Okay, and the one that we are using here is the fundamental one that we need to use. All right, we are using the 4 segmentation variables. Again, are they the only one? No. Some research agencies such as IC Nielsen, Roy Morgan, for instance, they suggest their own segmentation approach using the value, attitude, and lifestyle segmentation. Okay, if you Google the internet, Roy Morgan value segment, attitude, and lifestyle, you'll find a link that reveals the segmentation approach. Okay, but for our study, for your assessment, can you please focus on these 4 segmentation variables, which is basically the fundamental elements that we need to understand. Okay, all right, so there are 4 segmentation variables. The first one is geographic, which is basically about dividing the market into different geographical units, such as nations, regions, states, counties, cities, or even neighborhoods. Okay, so they are the geographical units. Okay, so if you divide your customers, if you explain my customers are basically those who live in the key cities such as Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Adelaide, and so on and so forth, then you are actually segmenting. You are actually using geographic segmentation approach. Okay, and the next one is demographic segmentation. Right? Demographic segmentation is actually the process of dividing the large population, the smaller market segment, based on demographic variables such as age, gender, family size, family life cycle, income, occupation, education, religion, and so on and so forth. Now, these variables may remind you the census survey that the Australian government normally conducts every 5 years. Okay, and the information that we collect from the census survey actually helps us understanding demographic forces. Okay, now please differentiate between demographic forces and demographic segmentation. Okay, demographic forces lead us to understand the changes of the population in terms of age, gender, family size, right? Whether Australian people have a larger family size or a smaller family size, for instance, okay, and Australian earn more income or less income, for instance. That's the outcome of your of the census survey, which is reflected, which is basically part of our demographic force analysis, okay, in the macro environmental forces analysis. But demographic segmentation variable is actually about understanding who, which group that we expect to become our customers, right? Which may be different to the demographic profile of the country, okay, or which may be different to the forces in the demographic environment. Okay, so again, demographic segmentation variable is actually about describing which group that you expect to become your customer. Okay, based on gender, right? Based on age, based on family size, income, occupation, so on and so forth, right? And in saying that, not all variables are relevant to our segmentation. For instance, some product categories may find that gender is probably not relevant, right? The product category may be consumed by both male and female without any, distinct behavior. So if there is a case, then gender is not related to this segmentation, right? But income may tell you the difference, right? Education may be different as well, okay? So if we say that our target market is basically the guys who earn, mid to upper income level, then we are using demographic segmentation variable. The next one is psychographic segmentation, which is basically about dividing a market into different segments based on social class, lifestyle, or personality characteristics. Okay, so here we talk about if we say that our customers are basically, our target market is basically those who are from medium to upper class, then you're using psychographic segmentation, okay? Or if we say that our target market is basically those who have outdoor lifestyle, for instance, or adventure lifestyle, for instance, then we are using psychographic segmentation, okay? Behavioral segmentation is actually dividing a market in a large population, small market segment based on the consumer knowledge, attitudes, uses, or responses to a product. Okay, so that's the behavioral segmentation. Okay, that is behavioral segmentation. Okay? If we use those things, then yes, we are using behavioral segmentation. Okay, so here we say if we claim that our target market is those who've been using this product, then yes, we're using behavioral segmentation. Or if we claim that our target market is basically those who've been who are new users, right? These guys use just for a little while, for instance, and drop the product, then we are using behavioral segmentation as well. Okay, or we can also look at that from the how heavy they are in using the product category. Okay, if we aim at our target market, if we claim that our target market is the light users, then again, it is another expression of behavioral segmentation. Okay. All right, so there are the 4 segmentation variables that we must use. All right, no discount. We got to use all 4. Now let's move on to targeting strategy. Okay. In the case of segmentation, the outcome is to actually reveal who will be our target market. Who will be which market segments that we can find in some markets. Okay, in a certain market. Okay, so the outcome of segmentation approach would be market segments, let's say, as mentioned before, if we conduct a thorough consumer study, we may come up with 6 to 8 market segments. Okay. Now, we've got the 6 to 8 market segments. Let's say if we use the 4 segmentation variables, then each of the 6 to 8 market segment contains geographic, demographic, psychographic, and behavioral, right? And they're different from one market segment to the other market segment. Then the question for us is which one or ones that we want to select to compete, okay? Then it is actually a question of targeting strategy, okay? In brief, targeting strategy is actually the process of evaluating and selecting which market segments or which market segments that we will compete. Okay, there are 4 approaches in terms of making decision. In terms of making decision for the market segment or segments that we want to compete. Now, if you look at this diagram, the first one is the undifferentiated or mass marketing. Right here, we are saying targeting broadly. Okay. The companies that adopt this strategy basically believe that the consumers' needs are the same. Okay, therefore they design one thing for everybody. They design one offering for everybody, right? Because they assume everybody has the same need. Okay, now if everybody has the same need, that means they only need to create one thing. Okay, and only companies that adopt this strategy basically focus on making the product affordable and available. If you go back to the evolution of marketing, these guys are basically in the production-oriented marketing concept. Okay, so these guys focus more on making the product available and affordable for everybody. Okay, therefore they target everyone to reduce the costs, to make the product affordable for everybody, so that it can be available for everybody. Okay. Now, in today's marketing landscape, unless you are a commodity product such as Sydney water and you hold the monopoly, then it's hard for you to adopt the undifferentiated marketing strategy. Okay, but nonetheless, still some companies such as some electronic companies from the Chinese brands still adopting the undifferentiated mass marketing. They aim at reducing the costs because they aim at the globe as their target market. Okay, that's undifferentiated mass marketing, right? So that means if no matter how many market segments that are identified, either 6 or 8. They will only create one thing for everybody. Okay, that's undifferentiated or mass marketing strategy. On the other end, we have what we call as targeting narrowly. Okay, this is what we call as micro marketing. Okay, so these guys normally customize their offering to meet each individual customer. Okay, there's some businesses such as small businesses, for instance. Okay, they do that. Okay, they customize their offering to each individual's need. Okay, to meet the need of their individual customers. Okay, so if you go to hairdresser, for instance, you will have they'll give you the haircut based on what you need, right? Not they're not going to copy your friend's haircut for hairstyle, for instance. Okay, if you go to a tailor, for instance, to get someone making a dress for you, then they'll do your measures, right? They ask the color that you like, they ask the accessories that you want, and so on and so forth. They'll customize it for you. Okay, not copying and pasting from the others. Well, if they give you some models from magazine and so on and so forth, that it is a starting point for them, but they will still ask what you need. Okay, so there are some examples from small business perspective. Business to business marketing, a lot of them also do micro marketing. They design the offering, they design the product and services to meet their individual customers. Okay, so the customers may buy the same machine, for instance. However, there may be adjustment in terms of the service. Okay, I'm not going to give you I'm not going to support the installation because you claim that you know how to install it yourself, and we are going to reduce the price a little bit for you because you will install it yourself. So we are going to ship the machine for you and you do it yourself. Okay, so that's another customization. That's an example of customization that business-to-business marketers perform. Okay, and chain store, like retail chain store, may also do their micro marketing. Although at the head office, they may have a decision. They may decide, okay, this is our grand strategy. Okay, this is our promotional activities. But at local level, it may be there may be some adjustment. They look at the local customers' need, okay, in the neighborhood. Well, my store, the store manager may make that decision. Okay, my store is located in western suburb or eastern suburb, and so on and so forth, and then they adjust it accordingly. Okay, so we have discussed these two extremes, the targeting broadly and targeting narrowly. Okay, in between we have what we call as differentiated segmentation strategy or differentiated targeting strategy and concentrated targeting strategy. Okay, the company that adopts differentiated targeting strategy basically believes that the market can be segmented because the market has different needs, and these guys, the target customers, can be grouped because they share similarities. Okay, so that's the philosophy behind segmentation. Okay, so the companies that adopt this strategy believe that a group of people may share some similarities, right? Share similarities, similar characteristics, similar needs or preferences. Therefore, we can group them. Okay, so that's the underpinning premise of segmented or differentiated targeting strategy. Okay, now with that differentiated targeting strategy, the company will create different offering to meet different customers' need. Okay, so after they do the segmentation, let's say they come up with 6 to 8 market segments, they will create a different offering, right? Offering 1 to meet segment A, offering 2 to meet segment B, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's differentiated marketing strategy. And we know that servicing customers through creating different offering means resources. That's the reason why differentiated targeting strategy is normally adopted by large companies because they have the resources to do it. Okay, small companies would normally struggle to create to adopt the differentiated targeting strategy. Therefore, they would normally adopt what we call as the concentrated targeting strategy. Okay, which is basically focusing the entire marketing offering into one segment, one market segment only. Now, this one market segment only that they target, let's say there are 6 to 8 market segments, they only target one. The entire company's offering is intended to meet one market segment, and that one market segment is normally overlooked by the market leader because they can't afford to compete directly with the market leader. Okay. All right. Now let's. I have some diagram here. Hopefully that these diagrams helps us to explain to you. This one here is undifferentiated or marketing strategy or targeting strategy. The company's offering is intended for everybody, all market segments. No matter how many market segments that we identify, they just create one thing for everybody. Okay, and we know that it has become less popular. The undifferentiated marketing strategy or targeting strategy has become less popular. Therefore, large companies would normally create different offering to meet different market segments. Okay, and this is the niche or concentrated targeting strategy where the entire marketing mix or offering is intended to meet one market segment only. Okay, for instance, night owls, for instance, a convenience store that operate long hours is an example, and these guys understand that these guys can't compete with the market leaders such as Woolies and Coles, so they create that offering for the customers in terms of service. Okay, and they would normally their store would normally be smaller, and they only offer the popular items that people must buy by that minute. All people are in urgent need to buy those products. So these guys will be going to night owls. Okay. Right, so that's concentrated. Okay, now look, target market analysis. Okay, so guys, please make sure that you include 4 segmentation variables, all right, as part of your target market analysis, no discounts, right? So you should use the 4 segmentation variables. Who are they? Geographic, demographic, psychographic, and behavioral. And again, please briefly explain the concepts, okay? Okay, now we move on to positioning. Now, positioning is actually, this is what we mean by positioning. Okay, the way the product is defined by consumers on important attributes, based on important attributes, right? Or in other words, it is the place the product occupies in the consumer's minds relative to the competition. Okay, so you can map your brands in the consumer's mind. Okay, based on the attributes, you can map them. Okay. And look, this is just a brief illustration. You can contrast where BMW sits in your mind and VW sits in your mind. You can tell me what word that you can use to describe BMW as well as VW. Okay, that's how we describe our positioning. Okay, assuming those words that you explain are important in this industry, okay, then it is how they position in your mind. Okay, in real life we do focus group discussion and also survey to understand that further. Okay, right, so that's positioning. And marketers would normally look at the their positioning map and to find out where or perception map to find out the unique position, because if you're positioning or perceptual in the perceptual map, you are perceived as the same thing, then if you're not the market leader, then you'll be in trouble. Okay, now if you look at this, we have social acceptability as one variable and sweetness as another variable. Now, guys, in real life, we will have more than just 2 variables. Okay, just to give you an illustration, let's look at these 2 variables. Okay, now according to this positioning map, Coca-Cola has been perceived as very high in terms of social acceptability. Okay, and the size of the circle actually represents these the market share or the size of their business. Okay, now if you look at that, you may recall that every time Coke runs campaigns, they normally show, people mingle, people sharing the joy, people sharing the happiness, and so on and so forth. That is basically reflecting their social acceptability. Okay. On the other side, if you look at sweetness, Pepsi is the highest in here. Okay, in terms of sweetness, right? Now, if you are the brand manager of Solo and you haven't launched that product, okay, or if you are a brand manager of a new soft drink and you haven't launched that brand yet, you have several options here, right? If you want to be perceived as being high in terms of social acceptability, then you will fight with the market leader Coke. And if you want to be perceived as being sweet, then you'll be fighting with another global leader, right? Pepsi. So you may create a different one. You may want to capture a unique position, right? Let's name it Solo. And we are not high in terms of social acceptability because we are Solo, or we are not high in terms of sweetness, to start our differentiation. Now, that positioning is actually critical for us because it will drive our marketing mix variables. We need to reflect that positioning through our marketing mix variables. Otherwise, consumers will not understand it. Okay. Okay. So that's the positioning map and positioning strategy as a concept. Now, And the one that you also need to deliver in terms of positioning is a positioning statement. And this is what we mean by a positioning statement. A statement that summarizes company or brand positioning. Okay, this is how we normally summarize it. To what target market and with what need. Our brand is what concept, that point of difference. Okay, so that's how we normally formulate it. Okay. All right, so guys, again, outcome of this task. Please make sure that we have outlined segmentation analysis and variables, and the target market analysis using 4 segmentation variables, no discount again, and the positioning statement and positioning strategy. And if you draw a positioning map of your brand in the competition, this is it is highly appreciated. Okay, and remember concepts. Okay, now we move on to discussing our product, our marketing mix variables. Okay, right. In this section, let's discuss briefly about brand. Okay, what is brand? Well, technically speaking, this is what we mean by a brand: name, term, sign, symbol, design, or combination of those things that differentiate one product to the others. Okay, so that's what we mean by a brand. Okay? And branding strategies, we have individual branding, a policy of naming each product differently, family branding, branding of all of company's products with the same name. Okay, so we just name it using the same name. Okay, and combination like Camel Islands, for instance, they use individual branding. Like at Tim Tam, they also use the family branding. Arnott's Sweet Biscuits, Arnott's Tim Tam, and so on and so forth. They use combination. Okay. Still, in terms of branding strategies, please also explain whether your brand is using brand extensions. That means they use the existing brand to brand a new product in a different product category. So they use the same brand name to name a new product in a different product category. Okay? And co-branding, they use 2 or more brands on one product. Okay, so if they do that, that means they're using co-branding. Okay. Okay, now let's discuss more about the about what we mean by product or service. Now, product is actually defined as anything that can be offered for customers' attention, acquisition, and consumption that might need their needs. Okay, so in brief, they purchase it in order to meet their need. Okay, and service is a different one. Okay, a service is an activity or benefit that consumers acquire. Okay, that consumers purchase or buy or consume to meet their need, and the purchase does not translate into transition of ownership. So that means if you buy a service, it doesn't mean you become the owner or the new owner of that service. Okay, if you buy Qantas ticket, for instance, it doesn't mean you become the new owner of Qantas. Okay, now you can contrast that with product. If you buy a packet of Tim Tam, you will become the new owner of that packet of Tim Tam. Okay, it is not the same thing to service industry. Okay, if you check into a hotel, if you pay the hotel rate, it doesn't mean that you'll become the new owner of that hotel. Okay, they will provide the service. They will allow you to stay in their hotel room for a certain period of time. Okay, so that's product and service. Right, now the next thing that we need to discuss is the 3 levels of product. Okay, the 3 levels of product in here include core customer value or core product, which is basically reflecting what the customer is really buying. It is the reason why they buy. It is actually about the benefit, therefore it is intangible. Okay, so if you look at a 1/4-inch drill, what is the reason why customers buy this product? Well, because they want to make a hole. So to make a hole in here is the core customer value. Okay, the next one is actual product. Now, actual product should reflect the core customer value. Okay, actual product includes brand name, features, design, packaging, and quality level. Right, so they are basically the actual product. And so please detail your actual product. This is the opportunity to detail your product. In the introduction, you just talk about it briefly. Now, this is the opportunity for you to detail it, right? This section gives you the opportunity to detail your product strategy, okay? And the next one is augmented product, okay, which is basically about additional customer services and benefits that include the post-sale service, warranty, for instance, information, okay? So that's the augmented product. Now, please understand that augmented product is not promotional activities, right? Like loyalty card, it is not part of the augmented product, okay? It is embedded. This augmented product is embedded into the product strategy, okay? Right, so that's product, okay? Now, the next thing is price. Okay, what do we mean by price? Price is actually anything, the amount of money that the customers are willingly to pay to acquire the benefit of a product. Okay, so that's what we mean by price. There are two key features I'd like to talk about price before we move on. First, price is the only marketing mix variables that generates revenue. The other marketing mix variables actually mean cost to the business. You design a product, you mean you are spending money to design the product, right? And placement and also promotion, okay? The second key feature of price is it is the only marketing mix variable that is easy to adjust. Therefore, we are going to discuss about price adjustment strategies in this section as well. Okay? If you want to adjust the other marketing mix variables, you got to research them. You got to hire a packaging designer if you want to change your product, for instance, and you got to talk to your operational management or the manufacturing director. Okay. All right. So that's price. Okay. Now, in terms of price consideration, we have cost-based, okay? There are general pricing strategies, cost-based pricing, demand-based pricing, and competition-based pricing. Please make sure you understand that. Cost-based pricing basically refers to the cost of making the product, and companies would normally charge certain level of a markup to set the price. Demand-based pricing is similar to value-based pricing. They start with understanding the customer's value. Right? How much would customer value that kind of product? And then with that, they charge they set the price, and they work backwards to understand the materials that they need to use and to purchase. That helps them to understand the costs to create the product. Okay. And the next one is competition-based pricing. Here, they benchmark to the competition. They look, they ask themselves whether their products they're offering is basically superior or inferior, or just on par with the competitor's product. Okay, and then they charge the price accordingly. All right, now we have a range of pricing strategy. Here we have the differential pricing, which is basically charging different prices to different buyers for the same quality and quantity of product, but these guys are basically offering us a different terms and conditions. Negotiated pricing, again, as mentioned before, price is the only marketing mix variables that can be easily adjusted. So these guys basically adopt the negotiation, okay? So it is established through the bargaining between the seller and customer. You can also go to a certain consumer electronics store and you can bring the brochure of their competitor. Hey, look guys, you are so expensive, look at this brochure. I can buy this product at that much, so why do I want to buy this from you? Okay. And secondary market pricing, setting one price for the primary target and different price for another target market. Okay, so you may recall that Sydney buses, for instance, they have adult price, adult fare, and they have secondary pricing as well for children or pensioners, for instance. Period discounting, so for temporary reason they discount the price because they want to stimulate incremental sales increase. And random discounting, they temporarily reduce the price on an unsystematic basis. Okay, right. And in terms of new product, we also have what we call as the new product pricing. That includes the price skimming, which is basically charging the highest possible price. So the company that adopts this strategy normally expects that they're not going to sell a lot, but they expect high profit or high margin per unit. Okay. And then penetration pricing, which is basically setting the price low. So they expect low profit per unit, but they expect the profitability is achieved through high volume. Okay. Therefore, the company that adopts this strategy would normally expect high market penetrations to increase significant market share. So the aim in here is basically market share. Right. Now we also have the product line pricing. Okay, in terms of pricing strategy. Okay, it is basically about establishing and adjusting price of multiple products within the product line. So a hotel, for instance, has a number of offering. Okay, they have the standard room, deluxe room, suite room, and each different product line would normally be priced differently. Okay. Captive pricing, which is basically pricing the product because they have the main product and also the accessories, and they would normally price the basic product or the main product in the low, whilst the accessories would normally be charged higher. Okay, now be careful if you do that. If you adopt this strategy for your business, be careful with that. Make sure that your customers do not have the options of buying the accessories. If they do, then you're not going to make the business. Okay. And the next one is premium pricing, which is basically pricing the highest quality or most versatile products higher than the other models in the product line. Bait pricing, we price an item in the product line low with the intention of selling higher price item in the line. So we track the customers to come. Yes, we are selling low for certain item, and the other items we are going to make profit from the other items. And the other one is price lining, which is basically setting a limited number of prices for selected groups or lines of merchandise. Now, we also know we have what we call as a psychological pricing, which is basically we try to create illusion, right, with psychological pricing. Illusion of what? Illusion of being cheap or illusion of being premium. Okay. Now, you may recall that if you go to Woolworths and Coles, you may find the price tags $2.99, $4.98, and so on and so forth to create the illusion of being cheap. Okay. And reference pricing, which is basically you price a product at moderate level and display that next to a more expensive model brand. So we hope that the customer will use the higher price as the reference, okay, to compare to your price. Okay? Now, I'd like to highlight to you guys, if you use the reference pricing, please make sure that the customers have little knowledge or experience in using the reference in this product category. Okay.